Hey guys, it's Dean. This is it. This is the video I've been most excited to make since starting my Mario Party retrospectives. Well, it would have been if this game was announced prior to me actually starting them. But ever since this game was announced, I've been looking forward to it, because I knew it would be the first true return to form that could compete with the classics. Sure, Super Mario Party brought the standard board game back, but the boards were comparatively small and uninspired, amongst other issues that I addressed in my previous video. But Mario Party Superstars, I knew would be a proper return to form, and I knew they'd have to try pretty hard to screw them up because those boards and minigames already existed. It's all a matter of packaging those up with good game mechanics and not changing too much. And I'm not gonna lie, NDCube really pushed towards that line. It's like they were just looking for us to find the point that makes us rage about this title. I actually think for a lot of people, they managed to pull that off, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as some people make it out to be. In fact, I think this game is pretty good, albeit if you skip one or two boards. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start from the beginning. But before that, I'd be foolish not to remind you all that I have a Patreon page up and running. The only benefits on there at the moment are shoutouts at the end of my videos, but you'd also be helping to push me to release more videos and more frequently. So if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, I appreciate it. Otherwise, feel free to enjoy my content regardless. Anyway, Mario Party Superstars' general gameplay is more similar to Mario Party 2 and 3 than any of the other games. Not only because it literally steals their boards and modernizes them up to current day standards, but the general board play, mainly regarding items, are much more similar to the second two games. Sure, Mario Party 1's boards are there, but Mario Party 1 didn't have items, so it's much different to play on those boards, for better or for worse. Although Mario Party 1 and Mario Party 4 did have the same item space we see here, the space was more limiting to Mario Party 1 and 4, and over here it leads to an item minigame. Mario Party 5 is out of the question because of its unique capsule system, and while Mario Party 6, 7, and 8 have shops available to purchase items, they also have floating item spots all over the boards that guarantee you receive an item where you pass, with them designing the boards around the knowledge that players will always have an item beyond those locations. And of course, simply the fact that in 5 through 8 NDS, the ability to place items on the board fundamentally changes how boards are played and designed. So yeah, this game definitely is one for nostalgia-hungry Nintendo 64 loving Mario Party 2 fanboy boomer like myself. I mean, just the fact that Spaceland in this game is almost enough to make me forgive the fact that they didn't include the costumes in this title. Almost. Jokes aside, I think that Mario Party Superstars does enough to make itself stand out as its own title. Seeing as how the game has been out for less than a year, I think it's fair to look at this game as more of a review and less of a retrospective. What I mean by that is when I discuss Mario Party 1 through 7, I discuss them for what they were, games from the past that are all readily available for retro gamers that have probably played them for the past 10, 20, or even 24 years now. I didn't really cover Mario Party 6 in the context of what the fandom was like when Mario Party 6 came out, or at least, if I did, it wasn't really relevant. In the case of Mario Party Superstars, however, the game is still new enough where it would be unfair of me, or anyone else, to not view them from the lens of a current fandom that has been stuck playing GameCube or Nintendo 64 era games out of a lack of options for proper Mario Party gameplay. Yeah, I'm still calling this video a retrospective though, because it fits better with my other titles, but consider it more of a review. Now that I'm done splitting hair, I think it would make the most sense to talk about some of the standout aspects of this game. Obviously, there's the fan service callbacks like the title screen, and I definitely appreciate how similar they made going into the various locales on the menu. Or even better, when you're setting up a game and it throws you down a pipe just like it did in Mario Party 1. They do a good job feeding you all this nostalgia in my opinion. And they steer right into it sometimes, like when they show you a screenshot of the older version of the board you're playing on every time you're about to start a game. These are all details that'll make older gamers smile at, but not obtrusive enough where newer gamers would feel like they're out of place. One of my favorite things though is simply the bonus stars. They almost got it right, but they got it more right than other titles in the past, I think. The game gives you the option to play with both types of bonus star packages we've come to know and love, or more likely hate. The classic system, which includes the minigame, rich, and event bonus, and the modern system that includes a bunch of stars where 2 of them are picked. I love that you're given a choice here, but I do have to critique the fact that the classic bonus stars aren't exactly the same as they used to be, and the modern system isn't the best version in my opinion. Regarding the classic bonus stars, the minigame star now has changed from who won the most coins in minigames to who outright won the most minigames. I prefer this because in the past titles, if you got lucky with one good coin minigame, it'd be worth double the points and you'd win the bonus star undeservedly in my opinion. This bonus star rewards skill and the current implementation of it does it best. Besides that, second and third place also get coins again, and I'd hate for those to count towards the bonus star. Even though those coins in this title aren't as useful because the economy in this title is way better than Super. My only gripe with the minigame bonus star is for whatever reason, the results screen at the end of the game still opts to show the number of coins won in minigames, rather than a tally of who has won the most minigames, so you don't really get an accurate tally at the end of the game if you don't keep track. The Rich Star also had a huge change compared to the old Coin Star. The Coin Star used to be awarded to the player that held the most coins at any point during the game. The Rich Star basically only tallies coins received throughout the game. I'm on the fence about this one. On one hand, I used to appreciate the strategy behind knowing when to hold your coins to win the bonus star. On the other hand, I think the Rich Star is a bit more balanced because it's not as tied to the minigame star as it used to be. Basically, in older titles, it felt like the player that got the minigame star more often than not also got the coin star. And while I think there's some benefit to guaranteeing the best player is able to win 2 stars, I think making them more guaranteed to win 1 star, while still having a decent shot at the second star, is more feasible. The change to the minigame star makes it much more focused on skill, and the change to the Rich Star makes it much more focused on luck. These changes actually complement each other. You still have a huge boost to win the Rich Star if you win the minigame star, but not as much as before. And finally, there's the event star, which is the same as it always was, which is completely fine to me. The issues I have with the modern bonus stars are honestly more of a preference than anything else. There's just too many of them, and only 2 of them are picked unless you play a game of 30 turns. It's hard to strategize for them. However, in previous titles, that was a bigger deal because you couldn't choose to play classic stars, so it can be forgiven, to some extent. I honestly can't say I'm surprised anymore that they haven't made the bonus star system completely customizable in these games, given that they've shown time and again that it's not their style. But I really wish they just let us set up our own bonus star system with the pool they give us. That being said, I really appreciate the fact that they let you choose between the random system and classic system. They fit both types of gameplay preferences. I mentioned the coin economy earlier. It's much better than it was on Super. Stars once again cost 20 coins, and you can immediately feel the impact. The game doesn't feel nearly as watered down as Super did as a result. There's still a crutch in place where 2nd and 3rd place receive 3 and 2 coins, but it's not nearly as bad since you'd have to be 2nd 7 times to earn enough coins for a star, whereas in Super you'd only have to get 2nd 3 times. I'm actually not opposed to rewarding 2nd and 3rd place in this case, because number 1, the amount they give them is fairly low, and number 2, it actually creates a sense of competition for 2nd and 3rd place, instead of just giving up when 1st place is guaranteed to win. A few of the minigames changed to awarding all the winners with 10 coins when there's a draw, when they used to simply end the entire game as a 4-way draw and award 0 coins. I always felt in the case of a draw the coins should be split evenly, giving 5 to the 2 winners or 3 to the 3 winners depending on how many tie. When nobody's awarded, it always felt like the minigame was a 4-way tie when there's often a clear 4th and sometimes even 3rd place player. When all winners are given 10 coins, it almost feels like there's too many coins being pumped into the game. Plus it often motivates the last 2 players to just agree to take the draw and come out as winners. But I guess to a lot of people, this is all part of the standard Mario Party drama. I just think there's better ways to handle the draws. Hidden blocks also make a return to this game, and they'll hold either a star or a coin. Similar to Super Mario Party, I'm pretty sure you can only get a star from a hidden block at the end of the game. So if you find one early on, it's just coins. But I'm not sure if anyone has officially confirmed that, I'm just speculating. The last 5 turns event is fairly classic too, in that it predicts the winner and gives them a slight helping hand with coins or an item, and it doubles the coin values of red and blue spaces. It also increases the deposit for the bank spaces on the boards. Oh yeah, the Koopa Bank is back! I always liked the bank space, so it's nice to see it return. It only takes 3 coins this time though, and 5 during the last 5 turns, which seems like a bit of a pointless change. Like, taking 2 more coins from a passing player is often not that big of a deal, but after a while, the bonus for landing on the space is much more appealing. I guess they were just trying to keep things a bit more balanced. But whatever, I'm glad the bank is back, and it still has the same impact when someone lands on it as it used to. Instead of the bank, however, Mario Party 1 brings back the OG Koopa that you would pass that would give you 10 coins whenever you finish a circuit. Boo's also back. I love Boo. Something about seeing him on the side of the board, ready to steal, makes me feel at home. Stealing coins is free and stealing stars is 50 coins, and I wouldn't have it any other way. 50 coins for a star steal makes a big impact, and stealing coins should always be free when Boo's involved. And both Bowser and Bowser spaces are back. In the Mario Party 1 boards, passing Bowser does what it did in the original, it takes a bunch of coins for you. But you do get a consolation item you grossly overpaid for, so it's not too bad. Bowser is only a board character in the Mario Party 1 boards, however, which makes sense since that's where it's taken from. All the boards do, however, contain Bowser spaces, and with the Bowser spaces comes Bowser's Roulette, which has a near-perfect implementation in this game. The possible outcomes change depending on how far along you are in the game and what place you're in, just like the way the good people at Hudson Soft intended. Bowser's Revolution seems to strike most during the latter half of the game, and that's because it's not even an option in the first half of the game unless there's players in first or second landing on the Bowser space. There's always an option for a Bowser minigame, which entails surviving the minigame, otherwise you give coins to Bowser, and it's not uncommon for all 4 players to lose the minigames either. Aside from that, you have your usual punishments like Bowser Shuffle, or being forced to give Bowser a bunch of coins or even a star in the second half of the game. Ruthless, just the way I like it. On occasion, Bowser might give 10 coins to a 4th place player if they land on a space, but aside from that, his only other charity is giving 20 coins if the punishment is lose 1 star and the player has no stars to give. On the opposite end of things, you have lucky spaces. I've found that lucky spaces tend to be a large point of debate for this title specifically. I've seen tons of arguments for them claiming they add an extra twist to the game, providing players a chance to remain competitive. I personally like them just for the fact that they are a means to provide coins, which allows players that aren't winning minigames to have a shot at the new rich bonus star format. The arguments against lucky spaces tend to come from people who don't appreciate the helping hand the game is providing, almost as if these spaces in particular make the game unbalanced and provide too much luck to the mix. I've even seen people go as far as to compare Superstars to Super Mario Party because the lucky space ruins the game's economy in their opinion, an opinion that I wholeheartedly reject. So here's my take on the lucky spaces. I think they provide more good to the game than they do bad, but I do acknowledge that their implementation based on the boards vary. So generally speaking, the lucky spaces work in a similar fashion to the Bowser spaces, in that they'll provide a better helping hand to players in 3rd and 4th place, and they'll have slightly better options on the roulette later on in the game. Also, similar to Bowser, the change isn't that much different. Usually a few more coins or a slightly better item available, but generally over half of the outcomes on the roulette are the same anyway. I don't want to turn this into too much of a probability equation, but in order to even trigger a lucky space, you have to land on one, which in most boards is about 15 to 20% of the total spaces on the board, so it's a lot more likely to happen than it does Bowser. But still, if you do manage to land on one, half the time you'll likely only receive an average of about 10 coins. If you're in 3rd or 4th, that might be a bit more, 1st or 2nd, a bit less. With some special cases in late games where a 17 or a 20 coin option might pass on the roulette, but even then, it's like 1 of 9 options. Receiving coins from the board like this isn't a huge deal to me, as there have been plenty of scenarios throughout the series that have options all around the board that allow someone to quickly land on it and earn coins. If anything, I prefer the roulette because it speeds things up and straight to the point. The other half of the time you land on a lucky space, you're getting an item. Again, most commonly, it's just going to be a dice or a double dice, with some snowballs thrown in there like a custom dice block or an item bag or whatever. Once again, the item options don't bother me at all because from Mario Party 5 to 8, and even in DS, we had floating items on the board that guaranteed players would receive items. Whereas in this game, your only other option is the item shop or landing on an item minigame. So having a lucky space that allows you to maybe get an item, a basic item at that, is totally fine. Like, okay, if someone landed on a lucky space and they were rewarded bluebells and golden pipes, I'd complain, but that's not the case. I've noticed some of the boards provide more item slots than coins in the roulette, and some boards provide more coins. It just depends on the coin gimmick, I guess. Horror Land is probably the worst implementation of the item space because a quarter of all the spaces on the board are lucky spaces. At first I figured it's because they're really trying to push for more people to be able to reach Boo and steal 3 stars, but usually all you'll get on that board is an item, so even then it's not even that offensive. Anyway, long story short, I think they're totally fine, and the fact that you have to land on the space plus get lucky with a good enough result to make a difference to your gameplay is a good balancer to avoid lucky spaces becoming too powerful or providing too much help to losing players. Also, keep in mind, when you land on a lucky space, you don't gain the 3 coins you were supposed to get, or the 6 you'd have gotten in the last 5 turns, so the net gain from them coin-wise is even less than you think. Let's move on to the item minigames, or at least their rewards. Not to delve too deep into this, but the big difference between the items available in the item games versus what you'd see in the lucky space is if you're in 3rd or 4th place, there's actually a shot at winning a special item available, be it a hidden block card, a double star card, a boo bell, golden pipe, etc. Some minigames are easier to master than others, so if you get really lucky you can guarantee success, but I'll discuss those more when I get to the minigames. And likewise, the shops also provide different items for sale depending on what the situation of the game is. You'll generally always have some of the basic blocks in there, but in the latter half of the game some of the more enticing items come out, albeit not nearly as enticing as the item minigames. But here you have control over the item you get as long as you have enough coins. The shop actually ruins one of the boards altogether. If you've been playing this game and following the opinions online since it's been released, then you already know which board it is. But before I get to that, let me rapid my way through the items one last time for this retrospective. Okay, here goes. Skeleton Key. Love to see you again, can't believe you've been gone for so long, you cost 3 coins. Mushroom. Adds 5 to any dice roll, costs 3 coins. Cursed Dice Block. Limits yourself or an enemy to a 1 through 3 dice, 3 coins. Double Dice, 5 coins. Chomp Call. Moves a star location, 7 coins. Warp Block, 7 coins. Triple Dice, 10 coins. Custom Dice Block, 12 coins. Plunder Chest. Steal a random item from an opponent of your choice, 20 coins. Golden Pipe, 25 coins. Hidden Block Card, 40 coins. Boo Bell, summons Boo, only available in item minigames, and I'm annoyed they don't have a Boo repellent in this game. Dueling Glove, only in item minigames. Super Warp Block. Honestly, didn't even know this one existed, but apparently you can choose the player you want to swap with instead of it being random like the Warp Block, which is pretty cool. Also, only available in item minigames. double star card, exchange for double stars when you reach the toad, only in item minigames. And finally the item bag, which fills up your inventory up to 3 items, and I'm pretty sure this is only available in lucky spaces. I could swear that the items that are only available in minigames sometimes show up in the item bags, but I honestly can't remember and I don't have any footage of it happening, so who knows. Personally, I think this is a near flawless item pool, prices and all. You could maybe argue that items should start at 5 coins instead of 3, or some of the mid-tier items should be priced up a bit, but the big difference I found playing Superstars versus playing the old games is not everyone automatically buying the same 2 or 3 items in the early game because a warp block, for example, isn't priced more than it should be. And again, there are no free items floating around the boards, and each board only has 1 or 2 item shops, so it shouldn't matter all that much. Anyway, down to the gameplay. I'm going to do something a little bit different and discuss the extra modes. I know, it's shocking since I've skipped them in every other retrospective, but I figure since there's no actual real extra mode in this game, I could do it quickly. There's a fun little achievement system I enjoy, even though it hasn't made me want to hunt for achievements, but still seeing them fill up is nice. There are also random things you can unlock like encyclopedia entries and music tracks and whatever, but the only ones that are kind of relevant to gameplay are the stickers. Oh yeah, in addition to taunts, there are stickers that pop up and they're cute for 2 seconds until your cousin spams them too much and now he's not invited over anymore. I like that you can turn the stickers off online. Yeah, online Mario Party. I know, what did you think, this was 2020? Of course it's there. But unfortunately, you can't turn the stickers off during local gameplay. Aside from that, really it's just fun to navigate the main screen for nostalgia purposes like I mentioned before. I'm also really fond of the option to choose classic music or remixed ones to default for each board. Beyond that, there's some various minigame modes that you'd come to enjoy. You know what guys, I'm not really enjoying covering the extra section. I tried. I'm glad I didn't cover them in previous videos. I'm moving on now. So remember how in Super we had every character imaginable available to play and everyone had cool dice blocks that were customizable? And it was probably the best thing about that game? Well, that's all gone now. The dice blocks, I can kinda maybe sorta not really understand since there were clear balancing issues with them, even though I would have loved an option to turn them on. But I don't understand why they cut down the character roster as much as they did. I guess some of the NPCs had to go back to work, but I don't even think that's a good enough excuse. As much as I love seeing Boo back on the board, the characters really should be customizable by now. Who cares if there are 4 Mario selected with different colored overalls, or different outfits like in Smash Bros. But whatever, they gave us 10 characters in this game and I got my Wario, so I'm happy. Anyway, before I get to the actual boards, rounding off the game mechanics are VS spaces, which are your typical battle minigames. Gamble some coins, play a minigame, and win some money back. It's actual minigames though, not like the weird Rumble micro minigames in Super. The only odd thing though is VS spaces disappear after they're landed on. I didn't really think that was necessary, but I like that they gave a proper classic implementation in this game. And finally, the best thing to return. After many years of being abused, turned into something it's not, renamed, and often straight up forgotten, Chance Time. And you'll be happy to know, this is your father's Chance Time. It's the same old Chance Time you grew up with if you're a Nintendo 64 kid. Full of mayhem, drama, and craziness. And of course, having your heart rate go sky high until the end result is you and a player you're tied with trading stars. I love it. Any game that has a regular Chance Time and Bowser's Big Blast minigame is a perfect game in my book. So really, Mario Party 2 in this one. Although this one kind of screws up Bowser's Big Blast because it's also available in the regular minigame rotation instead of only being a battle minigame. But you know what? I'll take a win where I can. Okay, I think I need to discuss the boards already. You've played them in the older titles, so there really isn't too much to get into, especially since I gave full details about them in my previous videos. Yoshi's Tropical Island I thought had a good gimmick in Mario Party 1, but it got old quick. I feel the same way here. I like that there are now items and lucky spaces because it makes the board a bit more exciting and less of a drag. It's a lot more balanced too because it used to be way too easy to win and lock weaker players on one side of the board by pricing them out on the bridge. Which, don't get me wrong, was super fun, but it was fun for Mario Party 1, not for Superstars, if that makes sense. Really, I'd have preferred DK's Jungle Adventure instead of this one. Or if you want the same theme but an all-around better board, then Pirate Land from Mario Party 2. In any case, this is a board I'll play to introduce people to Mario Party and not much else. Peach's Birthday Cake also makes a return, and while I definitely prefer it to its classic rendition, it still shouldn't have been added since Mario's Rainbow Castle would have been a much better option with a better gimmick for the linear board support. Like, sure, it's aesthetically pleasing and has its moments of fun, but I think there's better options available. I think adding 2 happening spaces in front of each Piranha Plant made the board a lot more nerve-wracking and fun, so I appreciate that. But Bowser was also shifted in a manner that having to pass by him is actually a shortcut to the star. And given how the board is laid out and how many players can plant Piranha Plants by the late game, you'd honestly probably be safer going through Bowser. Honestly, I'll play this board with my friends, but it'd be with the knowledge that it's going to be a wild round with a lot of screaming and luck based off of the dice rolls. Which isn't always a bad thing in Mario Party. I guess I'm just being a little harsh. The two Mario Party 1 boards are fine enough, I just think they could have picked better ones. For Mario Party 2 we have Spaceland, which is one of my all-time favorites. I actually didn't notice too much of a change for this one, and that's a good thing. It's hands down my favorite board in this game, made even better by the fact that you can forward Bowser's Blast. Horrorland. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I don't enjoy this board nearly as much as I did when it was in Mario Party 2. I've never been a diehard fan of the day-night cycles, so I never thought it was necessary enough to be a standout board gimmick, but for whatever reason, I think the difficulty level in Mario Party 2 made this board a lot more enjoyable to play rather than the ease of which this game helps you comparatively. Yoshi's Tropical Island benefited from the balancing, whereas in this game, it seems to help the players out too much to the point where the board loses a lot of its intimidation factor, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'd still play this board and I think it's good, but it's not as fun as it used to be. Woody Woods. Skip. Okay, I'll actually talk about it this time. If you remember my Mario Party 3 review, I just kind of glossed over this board because I didn't like it. Well, I'll have you know that not only do I still not like it, they actually managed to make it worse. They tried to fix some things, like forcing happening spaces to only change the junction ahead of you. And it's a good change, to be honest. They rearranged some key spaces on the board too, and I think it was all for the best. Actually, this board is fun for the first, 10 to 15 turns, because after that it turns into a game of golden pipes and chomp calls. Literally everyone has those items at the end of the game, to the point that nothing that happened in the first half matters anymore. If you get lucky and the player before you doesn't have a golden pipe, then you'll probably have a chomp call to move the star. So your only strategy at the end of the game is to go for the shop and buy a pipe, because it's literally never worth it to try and roll the dice next turn, because someone else will either move the star, or get the star and force it to move. So once again, screw Woody Woods, it's just not a good board. I really wish we would have seen Wario's stage in this one instead. But for this game, Spaceland alone is enough to make me like the board lineup. I've seen plenty of other people praise Peach's Cake and Yoshi's Island, so I might be in the minority of people that don't enjoy it as much, and even Horrorland seems to be the universal favorite for this game. Woody Woods gets a lot of hate though, so I'm not alone in that one. I think every person can find 2 or 3 boards in this game they enjoy, and that's always a good sign. The issue though is they literally just ripped off old board designs, so why on earth did they only give us 5 boards? I could somewhat understand only using Nintendo 64 boards because once you reach the GameCube titles, the mechanics change enough where you'd have to make some adjustments. But at the very least, there should have been 2 Mario Party 3 boards. That way we'd have 6. And more realistically, there should have been 3 or 4 boards from every title because you're literally using the same board design. Heck, I'd have accepted the boards maintaining their classic look with updated gameplay. The common issue I have with Mario Party Superstars is not so much of what it is. I think the game is good. Really good. Best Mario Party title in a very long time. The issue I have is what it could have been. So many unnecessary omissions and odd choices. Like, one of my favorite features was the return of the faster board movements, which I think was only implemented in Mario Party 3. It speeds up the game so much, so I always appreciated it. Well, they implemented it in Mario Party Superstars, but they decided to only make it applicable to NPCs. Just these weird decisions that make no sense. NDCube's still showing their classic NDCube attributes that they'll never shake off apparently. Okay. Minigames. Although I do like the minigame package as a whole, I do have some questions over the selection of certain minigames. The first and obvious one to stick out to me is the inclusion of Tug of War. I'm not sure why you'd think it was a good idea to include it in a game given its history, but I suppose if you really wanted to play into nostalgia in this game, PTSD was an excellent point to trigger. Aside from that, looking at the 4-player minigames, there are a total of 53 available, which is an absurd amount, and I think the game is better for it. A lot of the minigames had touch-ups which made them better or worse depending on who you ask. I previously mentioned a lot of the minigames changed the outcome of 2 players remaining from a draw, earning nobody coins, to a win for both remaining players earning 10 coins each. Like I said, I don't really like either outcome and I think they could have found a middle ground. But I also mentioned my concern with Bowser's Big Blast being used in the regular rotation, which I found odd since luck-based games are generally reserved for battle minigames. The battle minigames here pull from the regular 4-player minigame pool, so I don't mind that. I see a lot of people commenting about Leaf Leap and What Goes Up both being included, and I have no issues with that since they're both mechanically different minigames. What Goes Up requires upwards precision platforming, so it's different enough that I don't mind it. I'm more surprised that they included both Poke Pummel and Mecha Marathon. You didn't need 2 different button mashing 4-player minigames, this is in the 90s. But aside from that, the selection of 4-player minigames is fun enough by itself. For the 18 1v3 minigames, I think they did an okay job trying to find balanced ones from the series. The reality though is that there really isn't that many balanced minigames available to pull from. I'm convinced they've always added unbalanced minigames anyway just for the memes. Plus, certain minigames like Piranha Pursuit have no reason to be included in this game apart from nostalgia. I don't really like the 1v3 selection as much as the 4-player minigame selection, but it's still passable. There are 18 2v2 minigames and I have 0 complaints. They selected some of the most enjoyable ones in the entire series. You might have one or two you don't enjoy as much as other people do, but you can please everyone. When it comes to dual minigames, I'm slightly bothered by the fact that they only included 5 rather than pulling from the 4-player minigames and watering them down a bit for 2 players. But the 5 they picked are really good and unique, so it's not too bad. I'm just happy they didn't go full old school and make dual and item minigames board specific. I like the 5 minigames that were picked because aside from one of them, they all have just enough difficulty where you can't always guarantee the item you're after. The only exception being roll out the barrels, but even that one requires you to focus on the screen and not get distracted. Amongst these minigames, you'll find coin minigames that'll earn you a shot to win as many coins as you can instead of the standard 10 coins. Every now and then a minigame will be classified as a bonus minigame and be worth double, and if a VS space is landed on, the battle minigame will pull from the 4-player minigames. This is good for multiple reasons that I've covered in depth in previous videos, but basically I appreciate that we don't have any fun minigames locked behind the VS space, since battle minigames are often the most enjoyable in the game. And it's clear because a handful of exclusive battle minigames for previous titles were included in the 4-player minigame for Superstars. I can't speak for certain, but I imagine there were 4-player minigames that NDCube wanted to include into this game, but they couldn't because they'd have to be reworked to be able to determine a clear 1st through 4th place ranking for the sake of the battle minigames, and also for the 3 and 2 coins that 2nd and 3rd place receive. The only minigame that sticks out to me that was reworked and added for ranking purposes was Dizzy Dancing, since if it wasn't changed to add multiple notes, it would be more difficult to have a clear ranking. With that in mind, I imagine there are dozens, if not hundreds of minigames that players are wondering how NDCube could be so foolish to exclude. But the reality is, you really just can't please everyone. And as mentioned above, there may have been limitations to some of them. At the very least, you can be pleased to know that there's only one minigame that's 100% luck-based. They easily could have thrown in 10 of those just for a laugh. At the end of the day though, it's a good minigame package in my opinion. I might have some personal preferences, but they're just nitpicks. And besides, and I'll hopefully be saying this for the final time, you can always find enjoyment in any Mario Party title by just playing the minigames, and that's no different here. However, I do feel the need to include one major critique for this title. Where the heck are the motion controls? You can't spend 13 or so years getting us completely acclimated to motion controlled minigames and completely rug pull them away from us. I mean, I understand why it was done. They wanted to make sure the game was playable with every controller, including handheld. But do you really mean to tell me you couldn't include a setting that added 10 to 15 of the best motion control minigames from Mario Party 8 through 10? Before every game, you can choose which console and which types of minigames you wanted to include. There easily could have been a grayed out section to include motion control games if all players were using Joy-Cons. Like, I can understand not including pointer controlled minigames, even though I think those could have been reworked into Joy-Con controls, but there's no excuse for excluding the motion control minigames. They provide a fun variety to the game and are crucial for the enjoyment of casual crowds or newer players. As a result, there's the slightest bit of balancing issue for the minigames in this game, but luckily it's not enough to ruin the experience. Actually, despite everything I said, it would take a whole lot more to ruin this game. Mario Party Superstars is a very good Mario Party game, and more importantly, a good video game in general. It took the genre back to the basics by literally starting over, while including some important quality of life adjustments to make the game fit with the times. Where Super decided to over-adjust the gameplay to appease to newcomers and casual gamers in general, Superstars is a gift to the seasoned gamers while not totally leaving newcomers behind. In many Mario Party titles of the past, I'd feel like the game would make some progressive changes but then ruin the experience with a minor misstep. With Superstars, my biggest complaints are that they didn't do more. More boards, more characters, more options. And the reason I want more is because the game is good. Really good. So good that it makes my top 3 titles. I still favor Mario Party 2 and 7, but Superstars sits comfortably next to Mario Party 5, right behind 2 and 7. DLC might even kick Superstars up to first if they just added some boards, but I'm not holding my breath for DLC like I did with Sipper. I expect NDCube is starting to view the Mario Party as the cash cow that it is, and is going to start pumping games out more often. History will repeat itself, games will go unappreciated for many years, and after a decade, every generation will make an argument for the game they grew up with since very few people actually played all of the Mario Party titles. As far as I'm concerned though, if NDCube goes with a new game every 2 years model, I'll be buying them. I'm not going to make the same mistake I did as a teenager and skip the Mario Party games because reviewers and critics claim they're all the same. This is the perfect party series. Sure, I may enjoy Mario Kart and Smash Bros. More, but it's hard to find decent competition for those games offline. If this retrospective has taught me anything, it's that literally anyone can enjoy every Mario Party game. It's such an underappreciated series when it comes to the trifecta of multiplayer Mario games. Don't get me wrong, Smash Bros. And Mario Kart are great, but I don't think they're nearly as welcoming to the masses as people tend to think. Mario Party can be played with your PC gamer friend that only plays classic first-person shooters, your Sony friend that only plays massive single-player adventures, and your Xbox friend that just buys a new FIFA game every year. And you'd still not only have a good time, you, being the individual that owns and plays a Switch, could actually come out as a loser by the end of the game. This should not be a feat that goes underappreciated. I think in 2022, We're far enough removed from the days of the Wii to appreciate that titles can be played with the family again. And Superstars is even better than that category of games because it can be enjoyed a ton with a group of hardcore Nintendo gamers as well. It's the best of both worlds. I'm looking forward to what NDQ gives us next, whether it's DLC or a sequel. Hopefully this game does well enough to warrant a re-release of the GameCube boards, or heck, the rest of the Nintendo 64 boards. Either way, I'll be keeping an eye out. And that wraps up my retrospective. Hard to believe it took me as long as it did to get through all these games, but I managed to do it despite having a ton of crazy stuff happening this year. I'm super excited for my next series though. If you're a fan of platformers, you should definitely keep an eye out on my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe for notifications. And if you want to get a shout out on my next video, visit my Patreon page. Thanks for watching. Dean, out.